And we are back. We could call this the second verse, first bar. We could call this just bar number 17. We could call this episode 17. But here we are. It is the Lyrical Ones podcast. I am your, you know, hopefully consistent and gracious host, Cineo. And we got Alfluent with us. Alfluent, how you doing?
Yo, hurting like a lot of people, but I'm still kicking, so that's good. 10 toes down.
10 toes down. We're doing the best we can with what we got. And we have a guest with us today. Bailey, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Bailey.
Bailey, what brings you to the podcast this evening? What is it that you are involved in right now?
I think I was asked to be here because I am not just a spoken word poet, but I'm also new to the Lyrical Ops fam, doing the program director stuff for Lyrical Academy. So new to the family.
New to the
All
family.
right.
So we
So wait. So Bailey is not really new to the family like that. Like Bailey is folks. She been kinfolk for a while now. Um, but I think this is her first run at operational things with us, with lyrical opposition. But not Bailey did. She left out the great and the good part of being a spoken word artist. She left out the great and the good part of being a poet. She left out the great and the good part of being a leader in the community. But that's part of who she is. Like she's a multifaceted person. Just like before I even, because she needs a proper introduction, because we need drum rolls, we need cymbals, we need Aladdin, Prince Ali Ababwa, elephant things going on. And as you can see, Bailey's humble. And just before we got on live, I asked Bailey how many hats she's wearing today, because she's the type of person that stays active. And what I would like to say that I appreciate about Bailey before we get started is um, just being unapologetically authentic, sincere, um, and you how you see Bailey is how you get it. And one thing I respect, and I think I took one of her tools is um, Bailey's great at setting boundaries, and like you won't get to know what she don't want you to know. Kind of like you, Cineo. And I appreciate that so much. So like I'm always we always bring on people that I look up to. So it's always good to have
I look up
um,
to you too.
yeah,
Oh.
respect. Yeah.
Now I need a mask like Cineo though, because now I feel like you just told everybody who I am, and now
Nah, and not
I
even
want
right.
something to be like, wait, nope.
Tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. Real talk. Tip of the
I
iceberg.
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Now,
Thank you.
Bailey, what's happening this week for you?
This week for me, so I'm a student still. I'm that one person that graduated from high school that did not know what they wanted to do until a decade later. So I'm in school. So this week is all about midterms. Aside from midterms, I work at the San Francisco Unified School District. So I'm working with high school students, trying to connect them to jobs. And what else? And I'm studying to get certified to be a personal trainer. So I'm doing all that this week.
sounding
She
like the
told you.
straight up fusion of the two of
It's
us on the
only
I'm like,
Wednesday.
what? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out here trying to get kids jobs and I'm a be a personal trainer. I'm like, what? How do man just put us to shame? All right, so with that, Bailey, you come from where you come from? You come from the Bay? You come from San Francisco, Oakland? Where you
San
from?
Francisco, born and raised.
Born and raised. Okay, that's important to know. People that don't know, again, the Lyrical Ones podcast. We are San Francisco natives. June couldn't be with us tonight. June has some things to handle in a different galaxy, but for what it's worth right now, you are rocking with some SF natives. So
Dope.
with that, right, what was your experience growing up in our lovely San Francisco city?
My experience growing up is very confusing. I was a confused person, I think. I grew up in the Excelsior, but where I was specifically was Mission Terrace. So that's like outskirts of the Mission, Excelsior area. I'm Chinese, but my family is integrated with Italian people as well as El Salvadorian people. And so, yeah, there's an intersectionality in my identity. So I think I just grew up kind of like, who am I? And like, how do I fit in with all this intersection? I spoke Spanish before I spoke Cantonese, and that was a little confusing too. And so I was like bullied a little bit, but in the sense of like not knowing who I was, so I was able to get kind of like stepped on a little. So yeah, growing up in the city was a big adventure, I would say. A lot of like figuring things out. I was a latchkey kid. My parents are immigrants, so they worked. They came to the United States with $20 in their pocket. That's what they're going to tell you. So they worked a lot. And so I was home with grandparents who are kind of hands off. They just make sure that you ate. And then, oh, they could hear you, you know, like that Kevin Hart thing. It was like, oh, if you could hear the kids, you know, then they're okay. That's how my grandparents were. So yeah, just figuring things out. It was a journey, it was an adventure. Yeah.
So you are literally a representation of the Excelsior, like quite literally. Like to have that intersectionality between Italian, Salvadorian, and Chinese. For those that don't know, Excelsior is this so there's the southern side of San Francisco that people don't really talk about, and it's not really highlighted in your TVs, TV shows, the news. Like it's almost treated like its own place, but it is a part of San Francisco, and it is a very unique place in the terms of diversity. So just to kind of give everybody that framework and understanding of where Bailey's coming from, you have to understand the context of the melting pot that people talk about. Excelsior is definitely that melting pot, right? Like the city as a whole used to be a melting pot, if you will, but no more is that ever more prevalent and relevant than the Excelsior. So with that, I mean, you talking about knowing Spanish before you knew Cantonese and how the dynamics of that kind of created your identity. So how did that lead to then your usage or kind of you realizing like I'm a poet? I'm like, how does that happen, right? You come from all these different dynamics to now being a spoken word artist. What's that journey?
That I think like overall the journey is just that like communication, words and language are really important. Because I can understand Spanish now, but I won't speak it. And that's because I didn't speak it since I was like maybe 8 or 9 is when I stopped speaking Spanish because I was disconnected from that part of my family. And so I know for a fact, like with language, if you don't use it, if you don't practice it, you lose it, right? And so that's how I feel with like poetry. And like even right now, it's really hard to write. There's just so much going on. And I feel like words are hard. Words are hard is my motto for like this whole year, all these months. It's just that like formulating words is really hard. And so having the intersection of all of these identities and like knowing these different languages made me appreciate language so much that I feel like I dove into poetry because that's how I would express myself. Like vulnerability is hard, but in poetry, it's not that hard. And also because you don't have to read it to everybody, you know? And so I feel like that was the way that I like unplugged. That's the way that I communicated with myself, you know, and kept my own like language practicing, you know.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. So now we talking about going from the dynamics of family, language into the artistic realm of poetry. And so how did you get involved with the lyrical ops family?
I knew Christian aside from lyrical ops though. So I worked at the airport and I just seen this like Filipino kid with long hair and he had like the ponytail and I was like, oh, who's that? And people had said like, oh, he works with artists. Like, you know, he's dope. Like he knows people who know people who know people. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Right. And then I started getting involved into churches in the city. And I started doing poetry through these church avenues. And then I started meeting lyrical opposition artists. I met Christian, and so like slowly building that relationship there. And then they started booking me for shows and reaching out to me. And so I think that's kind of how I got connected, from what I remember.
Okay, okay, okay. That's what's up. That's what's up. So, I mean, how many years would you say you've known Christian?
I don't know. It's been a minute, maybe 6, 10, 9,
6 years.
more, 8. I don't
Time
even know.
flies.
It's been time flies. I don't know, but it's been a while.
Okay, okay. And so that leads to you being the program director of the Lyrical Academy?
Yes. So I'm gonna just be honest. Christian gave me this opportunity because over the summer I was going to be unemployed. The school district has a funny way of not paying people over the summer, so unemployment wasn't really going to help me out. So I mean, I still applied for unemployment, but like I needed an opportunity and I wanted to do some stuff around just Asian American identity. And Christian gave me this opportunity, and I'm forever grateful. And I'm still here. And yeah.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, with that kind of being said, what do you feel like is the importance of having representation for the Asian American identity? Like, what does that mean to you?
I feel like it's very complex because, like, I'm Asian American, I'm Chinese American, and there's levels to it. So, like, growing up, I was the ABC, American born Chinese. And so I was the outlier of what you would consider Asian, or what the Asian people considered Asian. I was an outlier. So I didn't fit in with that. And so then I don't hear stories from like my grandparents or my parents about what it means to be Asian. Like what it, sometimes like people give you that last name and you're like, you got to hold that last name proud. Like that's your legacy. Well, I don't know nothing about my last name. I don't know my dad's side. Don't have a connection with my dad. So like, I don't understand like what it means to be a fan, right? Like, I don't even know. So, throughout just like getting involved in the community work and seeing the representation of Black and brown folks, I felt like I'm your ally. I'm standing with you. I'm acting with you, but also like growing up in middle school being like, oh, you're a wannabe, right? And like you're just acting to fit in. And so trying to figure out who I am. And so I feel like Lyrical Ops was a really great way to connect, like learning from Bianca, learning from just the workshop we did not too long ago. And so building that understanding of my own identity, I'm big on like, you can't facilitate something until you participated in it. So I'm doing a lot of participating so that I can continue to build my community and like empower my community and facilitate certain calls to action. Because I feel like if we don't know who we are and we don't pull up the mirror, then we can't really like be so invested in something because we haven't identified with it yet. And so I feel like that's why representation means a lot. That's why, like, now that I'm starting to really come into who I am as an Asian American, I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna be vulnerable. Like, I'm gonna try to empower somebody else who may feel the way that I feel, where it's like, where do you fit in this realm of people of color? Because the model minority myth, like all these things kind of try to like shut us down and create this like, what did Bianca call it? The oppression Olympics, right? And so just understanding that, feeling like, okay, I need to get comfortable with who I am so that I can be out there in the community.
No, that's real. That's 100% real. I mean, you touching on a lot, and for those that are listening, we're trying to be hyper mindful and respectful to people's time, right? Like, Bailey is gracing us with her presence, and we're sitting here, trying to get as much as we can from her because it is a thing where we value you and not only the work that you do, but you as a person, right? Like, it's important that we highlight and we give the praise to the people around us who are giving us life, right? Like you try to be humble about it in the beginning. Our fluent ain't gonna let that happen, right? He gonna shower you and make sure that people know who you are and why you here. And I think it's important for people to have an understanding of why do you maintain that level or that boundary of like maintaining some humbleness or just not giving too much of yourself. Like where does that come from?
I feel like it comes from, on one hand, wanting to make sure that what I'm sharing is authentic. But in the sense of like, I feel like I've been, conditioned to not want much confrontation. I think a lot of people in the Asian culture, unfortunately, deal with this like kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just get certain things done and like not cause like that whole phrase, like, I don't want no trouble in the Chinese accent, like that's a real thing. And so I think partly why I set boundaries, why I don't immediately get real vulnerable is because of that, like whatever I say could cause some back and forth, some dialogue, which is why I appreciate like my partner. He's big on like, yo, what's the worst that could happen from a conversation, right? And so I think it's the boundaries have been in place because naturally you want to have walls built. You don't want to let everybody in right away. But also coming to understand who I am. I'm like, okay, y'all can know. Y'all just got to ask me. Like, you just got to like, poke and pry and ask the questions, because off rip, like I can't even write a bio about myself, like it's really hard. Talking
Same.
about myself, right, is kind of weird because I'm like, am I taking up too much space? I don't want to take up no space. Like, what about you? Like, let me ask about you. And so I have to like, even now, remember like y'all interviewing me for a particular reason, because I want to flip it back and be like, oh, where you grow up? Like, where are you from? What you like to do? What you like to eat? Like, did you guys have dinner? Because I'm hungry.
Hunters Point chicken.
So
protein.
yeah, it's just, I feel like it's natural to be humble, but also like, yeah, I think it's also something that I was conditioned to be like, not necessarily humble, but like standoffish or like, yeah.
I think that's prevalent in a lot of people's who are marginalized and oppressed. That idea, that concept of I don't want no trouble, because everyone just like in this patriarchy is trying to navigate the authority that can do whatever they want with them at any time, just from a bad day, or just without knocking on your door, coming in through the back, guns blazing, like when you don't even get a chance to say you don't want no trouble, that you are not up to anything, no good. Like when you know that you could get pulled over, and if your door is unlocked, they might open it and drag you out the car. Like I can relate to that so much. It's just, I think even growing up at home and dealing with siblings and having older siblings and not wanting trouble, and trying to learning to navigate that. No matter what I say, I can't say the right thing to stop someone from responding or reacting, right? That's on them, and then it's not my job to like shut them up by shutting myself up, or diminishing my point of view or my scope or my perspective to the point of silence won't enable them or empower them to leave me be, or stop a conflict. And shout out to all the partners that are okay with conflict. Shout out to all the partners that want all the smoke, and and want to be there when the smoke settles. Because folks need that, and I think people need that. The society needs that. Is that dialogue, that conflict, and all the smoke, and people realizing that we're still people, that we're still a community after the smoke settles. And I think it's always like cool to like to hear you say, that you're working on something, working on some kind of growth in your own life. Where do you see your own initiative to improve translate to how you interact with students trying to get jobs, or not trying to get jobs, some of them?
I really want to focus on empowerment because of my own journey and like feeling a lack of power and a lack of like grounded and rootedness in whoever I am and like what this city's all about. I really want to empower folks. And I also want to like share as much knowledge as I can before anything. Like I don't impose nothing on students that I work with, on the young people that I work with. I just give them all the information because the best decision that they can make is with all the information that they can have. And so that's really what I'm about, like just sharing resources, sharing information. And if I don't know something, I am not going to BS nobody. Like, I don't know it, but I'm going to let you know who might know it, or I'm going to find the answer for you. And I feel like that's something that I didn't have. And so I feel like a lot of the time when I'm working with these young folks, I'm trying to be for them what I didn't have, but in the current context. And trying really hard to empower them for their self-determination.
You know, it's so relevant you say those things just because I like the other me, the one without the mask. We are currently in the process of trying to hire somebody in the same field and the same work. And you hitting it on, you right on top of it. You know what's up. But with the whole idea of empowerment, right? And now you being that kind of figure, you know, you don't have to say names, but who were those people for you growing up? Like, who were the people that you could identify either in your you know, immediate community or your larger community that kind of gave you that relationship to know, like, oh, you're an adult that I can trust, that's trying to help support me in me being empowered and me having the autonomy to figure out what do I want to do with my life, right? Like who, like, you know, kind of describe what that was like.
I feel like it's hard to describe that because I don't think I can pinpoint one person. Like, not because there's too many people, but because there's none. Like, I think that's what's really hard. I can like make something up and like romanticize my high school experience and be like, oh my God, like all these people. But I think ultimately there were a few people who did their job, right? Like a counselor or an advisor or whatever, like they are doing their thing. They gotta, you know, tell you what, you know, it's time to apply for college. They're gonna tell you like, oh, this job is out there, or connect to this resource. But I don't think anyone really got to know me as a young person for me to feel like they really impacted my life. Cause I don't think like, yeah, like if I were to ask somebody who like worked with me as like a provider or like like an adult staff person, I don't think they would like be able to tell you who I was as a young person. They could tell you like I was good, I was a leader, I was, you know, I spoke up, but like more than that, I don't think so.
I
That's
mean, that's
real.
tribute. That's tribute. No, affluent, you go. You get the
No, but I just think, a lot of people, a lot of students go through that exact, experience of no one delving into the well of the person. Um, and, we know when we come across, small children, small people that they're whole people, at early ages, they're whole people with whole preferences and perspectives and worldviews. And, about time, folks are teenagers, um, there's so much there. There's so much that people have been through that often, faculty don't ask about, don't take time for, and often, and I think you see that working with the school district is because there's so many kids, there's so many students, it's hard to take that time to say this one, is important, especially if you have folks who don't come from the neighborhood or don't come from the city or don't come from similar backgrounds. It's hard for them to empathize with children enough to say, I see myself in this person enough to recognize that they need, some guidance, some extra guidance, or just need an ear to share their story. Because I think, finding your voice, comes from, like you said, you listen to yourself, or pick and choose how you want to present and have other people listen to you. Uh, I think we talk about that often on this podcast, how listening, allows us to love and look after people. Um, and students, it's really hard to find your voice. I think for me, I think what helped me was finding my voice was writing for sure. And I didn't really get into writing, I think, until there was no one to talk to. Uh, and so then I needed to write. Then I needed to find a voice, because even if I wasn't going to tell anybody, I need to tell myself.
I feel that. That's real.
Yeah.
no, that's really real. I mean, you know, like The setup is real. The reason why is because as much as you say it, I could read between the lines. So people who don't know, right? If you get to see the visual, I speak with a lot of hand gestures and a lot of movements, right? We get a chance to actually see each other. So if you're only listening to it, you're only getting half of the story, right? So let me go into depth with the context of what it is I'm really trying to get at. There are many layers to all of us, and not everyone can recognize it. There are multiple languages and forms of communication that are being spoken at all times, and that doesn't exist with the words themselves. It's in the tone, it's with how it resonates, it's in the context, it's in everything coming together to make the person the whole actualized self that they are and how they appear in the moment. So, me in this moment, Bailey, you resonate with me on a higher level because you come from the city, and because I know where you come from, it shows in what you say, how you carry yourself, and the way that the complete being is being shown, right? So to me, it's like you say, avoid confrontation, and that's that dynamic because I see the conflict, right? There's a part of you that's ready to confront. You're an advocate. That's what you do. You're ready to challenge. You're ready to speak up on others' behalves, and now you're seeing that there's the parallel between me doing it for others and me doing it for myself, right? And so in that, it's like, sometimes I get a little spicy on here and I try not to, but for the sake of this, I
Do
know
you
you
try
have the
not to?
ability. I try not to. I try. I mean, I'm
I
responsible.
could.
I'm
I
responsible
appreciate
with my
that.
spice. You know what I'm saying? I'm responsible with my level of spice that I add to the dish because it's not about pouring too much. It's about making sure the flavor's just right so you can eat it. Just a little heat, right? And the thing is I see that Bailey got that heat. Bailey got that spice too. The thing is that you coming to the table and Christian like giving you the opportunity is because he sees it too. He identifies. He's like, I need you to be the program director. I need you to be at the lead because in you being humble and you showcasing and harnessing that energy in a world where it's so easy for people to romanticize and try and big up. Like one thing we good for doing inside the city is be self-deprecating. One thing we're really good at doing is beating ourselves up because we're such perfectionists in our own rights. We want to do such a good job and be so authentic and be so real and to have acceptance in our community because there's a lot of love there to explore. But at the same time, we also have the crab in the bucket syndrome, where as soon as we see somebody on the way up, we quick to snatch them down. Sometimes it's in the minuscule ways, sometimes it's in the archaic ways, the oppressive ways. Sometimes it's just because we have unresolved issues within ourselves. But you being a part of the community, I see that you're engaging in that way where you're mindful of, okay, you know what, I want to have a positive impact on those around me. I want to be able to show up where people weren't showing up for me. Now, the flip side of that coin is taking care of yourself in the physical space, in the physical sense. So, where does being a personal trainer come into the equation?
Tell them about lifting, baby. Tell them about lifting. Tell them what it means to you.
I think I have a what's it called, Napoleon complex, because I'm small but I want to lift heavy. I think that's the main reason. Nah, but also I just really like to think of the person as a whole. And so I'm studying psychology. I want to dive into mental health work. So diving into that, I feel like I can't disregard the fact that there is a physical piece to it. And so because I know how much it helps me, I want to dive into that work and be able to help others as well. So just approaching health in a holistic way. Yeah.
Okay, so
Holistic.
you say how has it helped you, Bailey?
How has it helped me?
How has it helped you in your small lift heavy complex?
Bulking season has been going on for 3 years. No, I'm playing.
Bars.
I think that, so first and foremost, I think I really wanted to get into like the personal training aspect because of the fitness club that I facilitated when I worked at the same high school, but like in a different role years ago. Affluent knows, like, he came through and connected with us and really appreciate that partnership. And so yeah, just seeing young people thrive and like, oh snap, I just lifted how much weight and I had good form. Like, it just felt good to empower them in that sense. And so ultimately, like when it comes to the work that I do, I always think of young people. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get my personal training certification and be like, oh, I want to work with all the adults, I felt like I would still somehow find my way to work with some young people, to build them up in that way. And so I feel like it's just helped me, like fitness, physical health, like everything, like lifting has helped me. It's my therapy. It's my way to like chill out. Um, yeah, yeah. I just chill out from it. Yeah.
I think the correlation when you say like you like to think about the person as a whole, and when you talk about identity and your own journey with identity, like you, you right, you mean talking about yourself and seeing yourself as a whole person, and not missing any I's to dot, not missing any T's to cross, not missing any Q's when it comes to who you are as a person, especially when it comes to owning that identity. I always talk about fitness as a self exploration, and learning self, learning limits, learning how to interact and respond to stress, um, because how we respond to stress determines how we interact with people, right? And stress is always going to be there, but when you can say at this time of day, at this hour, or this morning, or this afternoon, at this time, I'm going to be introduce stress into my day, um, and my my perspective of that stress is something positive, right? So then my response is then engaging and then positive as well. Versus if someone says, "Oh, well, this spaghetti tastes bad, but I want you to try it anyway." My perspective, my preconception is the spaghetti is bad before I even try it. My preconception is this test is difficult or troublesome. My preconception is that this stress, this interview, this tough conversation with a partner, right, is disruptive to my peace before I even have it. And so then I engage with it in a way that can have a negative effect versus this is going to make us better. This is going to make me better. This is going to make me better. That idea, that perspective changes the way you respond altogether. But knowing that about yourself is hard to just kind of come up with on your own, without practice, I think.
For sure. It's like
And
rewiring your brain, to introduce something when you're in a different state of mind, introduce a stressor when you're in a different state of mind, you're probably more calm, or like you're just chill because you don't really want to work out, but then you do it anyways, but you're introducing that stress on purpose and then responding to it a certain way. So then when you are faced with an actual stressor, then your body's already regulated in a certain way because you created a connection in your brain. Like I feel like there's definitely that sense. And then like listening to you share that, it made me think like doing all this community work in all of this time, like we gotta be healthy. I feel like I'm always training to fight. Like I gotta be ready. I gotta be fit. I gotta be healthy because my young folks are gonna need me. Um, and not with the savior mentality, not like that, but just in the sense of like, if I don't take care of myself, like I'm doing that on purpose and then I'm doing a disservice to the young people that I'm serving.
Oh, that's real. Can't win a race if you burn out. And the only race we're really in is the race against ourselves. And that's the thing that is hard for people to reconcile is that, am I bettering myself? Am I improving on myself? And what does that really mean, right? It's not just outdoing what you've done, but it's also resting, recuperation, healing, and really having that practice, right? We coming back to those themes that we say in almost every episode because it's true. It's the repetition, it's the factors of repetition. And to maintain that form under stress, as it's been so eloquently put, is key because that shows up in everything we do, right? What you eat, right, results in the energy you have. How you feel results in the level of output you're going to give to the students and to the kids. So if you can't sustain yourself, how can you really show them what sustainability looks like for themselves if you don't practice it, if you don't know it? So many times in our great and glorious city, we have these outsiders who come in who think they know what they're doing and they try to tell us what to do. And then we get to know them and we realize y'all full of it. Y'all, yeah, extra spice. Y'all full of it, like for real. Because when it comes down to it, you could tell when you go into a space who's from here and who's not, right? People who really come from the dirt of this place, and then people who are like, well, this is this is where all the liberals are, and where the progressive change is, and this is such a forward thinking place. And it's like, but you ignore the fact of the people who make that, who are the existence and the embodiments of the things that you're coming to be a part of. We don't have a choice in being a part of it. We are a part of it, right? Bailey, it, to me, appears you have taken on the responsibility of saying, I'm not only from the community, I want to be a part of the community in a responsible manner, right? In a fashion that's going to be supportive of its growth and its betterment, its health, right? And that, I think that's, not only is it noble, but it's a shared commonality that a lot of us have when we come to this, right? We all find the communities that we're in, and you have to ask yourself, what is your role in that community, right? We come from people of many generations, of a lot of history, and if we're disconnected from it or not, there's going to be these constant themes and threads that bring us back to it, right? And I think it, it's highlighted in you not only thinking of like, you're lifting for not just for your health, but it's for your overall well-being. It's for your overall sense of self, your awareness of who you are, where you are, and then how do you show up. But in that, like, how did you get introduced to lifting? Like, what like, was it someone that brought it to you? Was it a YouTube video? Like, what was that process?
Um, okay. This question, though it seems very superficial, it really makes me have to say, like, I was okay. I was in an abusive relationship. And so I was not necessarily like, oh, I'm with this person I love them, I gotta stay. I was just scared and didn't have support to like disconnect from this person. So after, you could find my poem on YouTube, Ball and Chain. Okay, little plug. All right. So anyways, so with that, having gotten out of it, I just dove into lifting. I lifted, I worked out, I lost over 20 pounds. I got strong. And it was a really good way to just build myself back up. And so that's kind of where my journey with lifting began, because I wanted to be strong. I ended up in an emergency room, you feel me? So I just needed to like rebuild myself and reconnect with like who I am, and not this like person that's like, I don't have no support, I ain't got no help. And, so I think I just wanted to rebuild my strength in a very tangible way. And so, yeah, that's why I got connected with lifting. And then I just stuck with it.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Like, I really am, I'm thankful and honored that you could share that. And it's not just about me, it's about the people who listen are empowered by it, because whatever the way is, there's multiple ways. And if that way works for somebody, then by all means, I want them to know. Because, I've been in my own toxic relationships. I've had to find my sense of coping that was going to be something I could sustain, that wasn't going to destroy me because I'm coping, right? And I think that it's important that people understand that, like, it's not even about it being deep. It's about us being able to live, about us being able to thrive. It's not about it being a label of fitness and this, that, and the third. It's literally about like, we are people in this together, and we're trying to figure out what are the ways that we can like hold on, like really just see to the next day. Like, it's been said so many times before, when you're thinking of survival, you're not thinking about morals, you're not thinking about ethics, right? And we're trying to take it a step past that, so we don't have to be trapped in that mentality of just, when am I going to eat, into how can I love myself, right? How can I better me? How can I be everything that I need to be for not only myself, but then the people around me? And I think that it's profound in what you're saying, and it shows in how you choose to show up for the people, right? I think that we don't get enough time to honor people like you, who they take on the brunt work of having to deal with all of the egos and all the different personalities and all of the different individuals, right? You're working with kids. With that comes trauma, with that comes abuse, with that comes all these variables and levels of trauma and harm that impact us as individuals, impacts you. And no one's gonna come and be like, you know what, here's some flowers, here's a trophy because you're doing a phenomenal job, right? They say, oh, they in a sarcastic way, you're doing the Lord's work, pat yourself on the back, oh, it's about those the one successes, the 0.5% that make it out. That's what we do it for. And it's like, no, we do it because we owe it to ourselves. We didn't always have that. We owe it to the kids because at least they get that one interaction, right? You came up and you didn't have that, so like, well, I can't take that chance of having it happen again. And I think that is crucial and it's important because to me, it's like, here we are in this time and space where it's a world of change. It's a world of us awakening to what is our role in society, what's our role in the world. And for you, I see like you're showing up on multiple levels, on a multitude. And I want to salute you and honor the fact that, not only did you share and come spend time with us, but once this is over, you're still going back out to do the work, right? And I think that's what it is that's the consistency that we need as people, not only to see the work being done, but to honor it and uplift it. And I think like, for me, I'm interested in seeing like, what do you see down the road for you? What is the goal? Where do you want to take it? Right, 5 years. Where we come back to this podcast. What is it that you want to say to future Bailey and where you plan on being?
I feel like that's a loaded question because if I could, I feel like we're in a world that's very oppressive. There's institutionalized structures that like do not give no craps about the people who care. Communication isn't, uplifted. Humanizing people is not, valued. It's not like put at the forefront. People's moral compasses are all off. Like y'all said, like people come through to the city, they're not from the city, but they think we're all so liberal. But like, to be honest, the people who are doing the work have been the pillars to keep it or make it to be someplace that is empowering to the natives, right? So them coming in and like messing it up. But anyways, where I want to see myself in 5 years, like me and my partner got dreams. Like he does a lot of good work in the community too. And we keep each other going. And like where I would like us to be is to have our own center, is to have our own space, to be able to empower young people, whether that's through physical health, spiritual health, mental health, like all of that, and like build up that generation. In the sense of like sharing our knowledge. I don't think that I went through all the things that I went through for no reason. Like I give all praise to the Most High all day. And so in order for me to really do that, I gotta like remember like my feet are on the ground and I'm going because I'm like doing the Most High's work. Like it's not like, the cliche, you doing the Lord's work, but like really I want to, if we want to keep this community going, like we need to really pour into young people. And it's easy for them to, like right now, this shelter in place don't have me going into conspiracy theory, but like social skills are not happening. Like interactions are not happening, and I don't want that. So like in 5 years, I want to be in a space where like I have a really safe, protective environment that's nurturing for young people and that builds community, that teaches them how to communicate, that teaches them to figure out what their moral compass is like, to be strong, like physically and spiritually, to be able to like stand up to somebody who is a white man or who is somebody in a position of power and be like, nah, you're wrong. And I don't think that, we have too much of that. We have places that like address inequity and injustices. And the work is strong. The work is going. And I want to find my space where I fit in so that I can, in the role that I am, lead my community, heal my community, like be an active participant in like the work that we need to do to like continue the work. Like the work is going to continue. And we need to know that like our young folks are ready for that. Because right now they're all in their phones. They're all on Zoom. They're all on Netflix. And none of them are really engaging in this way. Like we need some real ass authentic dialogue. That's not happening. You could click a like button. You could leave a comment and never respond. Like you could do all these things that don't like exercise the brain, that don't make you think bigger outside the box. So if you stay in the box, you're going to figure out that it's just an oppressive, institutionalized, racist system. And then what? You're gonna be like, oh damn, I'm mad, but not have any of the tools to like address that and interrupt that. Like, so in 5 years, that's where I want to be. I want to be more knowledgeable. I want to be in a space where me and my partner are empowering young people, and just continue to work.
Y'all look out for this Lyrical Academy. Y'all look out for this Lyrical Academy. It's gonna be trouble for people who complacent. It's gonna be
So
trouble for people who complacent out here. We gonna find you a space. We gonna find you an outdoor space, Bailey. We gonna find you a building. We gonna get y'all right. Fitness club is moving out of the building, and we gonna move it. We gonna move it outside and get these people. I'm excited. I can get off
moving
this
and
thing.
grooving.
I need
Get me out of here. I'm out of here.
Bailey, have you identified a community that you would want to open a center in?
I want to stay in San Francisco. I would say District 11. That's, where I identify. Yeah, like, yeah, wherever. Like, I want to stay in San Francisco. That's
All right,
where.
we're gonna make it happen. We you heard it here first.
Let's find a warehouse, in the Brisbane area back
We
there. That's
buying some
coming.
property.
let's.
We gonna make this work. That's all I need to know.
You,
Bailey, is there anywhere that you feel, that you would like people to find you, or where you would like them to go and direct to, have access to who you are and what you're about?
um,
Lyrical Academy on
I
Instagram.
know. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
or any events that coming up that you want to plug, or any movements or campaigns or funds that you want people to pay attention to and send their energy toward.
All of what's happening. I need everybody to like look into everything. Research your side, what you agree with, research what you don't agree with, and do your homework, not just in school, but like for society. I don't got no plugs. I'm not performing anytime soon unless somebody want to book me. But I don't know if I'm going to actually say yes to the booking because these midterms are stressful. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram _Bailey SF, I think. I don't know. I don't know how to plug myself. But you can email me at bailey@lyricalopposition.org. That's something
Boom.
I know.
Boom. Stay connected, y'all. Bailey, I appreciate you. Thank you. We got to do this again. Um, you know, I'm honored to have had shared this space. So, Bailey, by all means, it's been a
Oh,
blessing.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we out here. You
All
see,
right. I
we got
just saw that and
the.
was like, oh, cool.
So for those that don't know, it's Bailey@lyricalopposition.org. BAILEY @lyricalopposition.org.
Don't
So
forget the E because that spells a whole other person's name. I
yeah,
don't
don't forget the
want to
E.
the E out.
Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate y'all. Thank
No,
you.
thank you, Bailey.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Bailey.
you.
Appreciate you.
So, just to follow up, we had Bailey with us, and Bailey gave us a lot and gave us her time, and it's appreciated. I'm thankful. And we wanted to continue the conversation because as it stands right now, we're recording this on Wednesday, September 23rd. If there's a delay or lapse, you're catching what is going on right now, right? So to kind of start things off, justice for Breonna Taylor, right? We're at this time right now where it has become very, very, very clear. And this is the breakdown for me. I think on Twitter, it was on Monday, they said, there's reports coming in that they told all police in Louisville, you can't go on vacation. You can, any vacation you had, you need to come back, which meant they were going to need all hands on deck for what they was getting ready to say. And here we are now, it's Wednesday. And what did they say? We are in the continued struggle and fight for justice for Breonna Taylor. We, this one injustice is injustice to all, right? That goes for oppression, that goes for racism, that goes for destruction and harm. If it's happening to one of us, it can happen to all of us. And it is happening to us because we are speaking out. We've spoken out for so long in so many ways. And we just wanted justice. We wanted a fair showing of holding people accountable for the wrongdoings and the mistakes that they've done and created. What have they committed themselves to? And what we're witnessing right now is no one wants to hold those in power accountable for their actions and what they've done, the harm they've created, the life that they've taken, because it's many lives that have been taken, and this is yet another one. And here we are asking, demanding, pushing. We're doing it all, and they've disrespected us. They've, in more the ways than one, they've neglected us in their ability to just kind of turn the page and move on while we're sit to deal with our feelings and to process these emotions that weigh heavy on us every day, because we know what's up. We look and we see a black woman who was taken away before she could fully realize all of her dreams, before she can live out and travel and do and experience and create the memories and the joy. All those things are non-existent because of this system, right? Right. We were talking with Bailey and we're talking about in the box. The box is racist. The box is oppressive, right? Thinking outside of the box is you trying to break free from the standards that they placed upon you, the restrictions that they try to hold you to. And it's bad enough they kill our people. They take away our people. They don't have the opportunity to be here with us in this fight because the fight has been long standing. It's hundreds of years in the making. And, you know, being an American descendant of slavery, right? These are the ramifications, the multi generational traumas that have now manifested themselves in this moment. People are hurting, people are dying, and people are tired. And so we wanted to make sure that we gave our perspective, that we spoke, that it's out there, that we're sharing our narrative, that we're in the conversation, because it's important that we really talk about it and really explore our feelings and emotions and try to concentrate it in a way that makes sure that we can sustain ourselves, right? It don't mean that we're going to be perfect. It don't mean that we're not going to make mistakes, but it does mean the fight continues. It ain't over just because they say it's over. If anything, it's time to double down, and it's time to even better figure out how do we convey our message and get our point across and have our demands met. It's demands. It's not a threat to your livelihood, it's not a threat to your safety to say we want to feel safe too. We're not taking anything away from anyone by saying we want to feel like we have a voice and we're valued. It's incredibly crazy. It's insanity to have every word in the dictionary that we have to describe all these feelings and emotions. Yet, as much as we use them, it seems like no one's listening or paying attention to what we're saying. It seems as though we're still speaking a different language. I just seen today there was a album released by it looks like a country singer, and it was an article about how the name of the album is called Long History of Violence, and it's one of those things where people were upset about the content of the music when what this album was doing was connecting the dots from being poor white people in the rural South to the empathy and struggles and the actual harm that's being done in the black community and it's been going on, right? And people were like, how could you even try and tie the two together? And it's like, this is an individual trying to show up as an ally and challenge those boxes, challenge these narratives that have been created over time, and say, how can we pride ourselves on anything if we not gonna stand with our fellow Americans? Because that's what we are, we're Americans. But when it's shown, no, the police gonna run in, and because you don't look like the America they want, or you represent the America they're afraid of, or because you've been conditioned and you've been taught that this isn't a part of the equation of protecting and serving, well, now you just you're a verdict. You're now a afterthought. You're just a canceled vacation because we took away. We took away your life. and your people are hurting because we took away your life. Unjustified. Was there a weapon on this person? Did this person provoke or display any immediate harm or danger to the officers as they entered the home and they decided to do what they wanted to do? To act like this hasn't happened so many times before in so many different ways, you can see the number of videos of people who are in their own homes being assaulted, being harassed by these individuals in power because they believe they have power. They believe their power justifies coming into your home because the neighbors don't know who you are because you just recently moved into the neighborhood. All that don't mean nothing. You're causing harm to fellow Americans. These Americans are black. These Americans are descendants of slaves. These are Americans who have ties to the African continent. Whatever the case may be, these are human beings. These are people who have just as much value as your blonde haired, blue eyed, pale skinned baby. It is literally human. There is no real difference other than what you decide to make of it. You treat us differently, we have to act differently. You give us no choice, we have to find a way to fight for more choices. All that we've ever wanted as a collective, as whether you believe in Buddha, Allah, Yahweh, God, Jesus, whatever your belief, we just want to be treated fair. We just want to feel free. I just had a conversation earlier today with an older black gentleman who I work with in a different realm, in a different space. And he's telling me, as much as I try to get out this house, I'm always mindful I might not come back. And I'm asking him how he doing, all things considered, right? Because when he asked me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm doing all right. All things considered. Considered what? A pandemic, the racial injustice and oppression, and the murder of people who look like my family. And so when I turn the question back to him and I say, how are you doing? He's like, oh man, considering everything that's going on, as much as I want to get out of this house, I'm always reminded there's a whole world out there that don't want to see me make it back. That's a person that's been here and put more time in. As they say, they got more time behind them than they got ahead of them. And even now with the time that they do have, it's dealt with that level of reasoning, right? I got to step outside and I got to be mindful and thoughtful. Am I going to make it back? So with that, I just wanted to make sure that we frame that out for people who do listen, for those that will, for the sake of posterity, for the sake of the future, that this is a recorded document, that this is a moment in time, that we are vocal as a collective, that we are in unison, that we are a choir, that we are a group, we are a movement, we are a force to be reckoned with. And so, Affluent, what you got to say? How you feeling?
First off, like I never even expect or hope to make it home. Um, and I think about Breonna Taylor and like she didn't even get to leave the house. Like she's like in her place of shelter. Like you sheltering in place and it's not safe there. It's like she's literally her job was to save people's lives. Right? Not sit in the house and record a podcast, not sit in the house and be on Zoom, not just an essential worker, but an EMT for like emergency responder who was a technician. Her job was just to keep people alive. If and the stress that comes with that job, the effort, the education that comes with that job, the studying, um, the skill sets that you have to learn to do that job well, to be employed to do that job. are not, toss away easy things to learn. And it's like when you come from anywhere in America where you're marginalized and uh, come from a low income home, like to become an EMT is a win, is a win, is a win, is a win. It's like to get out of a toxic relationship is a win. To be estranged from your ex is a win. To be unaffiliated with your ex is a win that's not easily won. To move on to a new relationship is not an easy win. To feel peace at home in a new neighborhood is not an easy win. And for all the winning, she got to be a martyr, where companies will use her face to stop the bleeding and they losses, their financial losses, and they bottom line, uh, to hold space and relevance, when they're not providing any products or services for the public, to for personalities, celebrity personalities, public figures, to use her face to be relevant, to seem empathetic, uh, to seem like they have any relatability, um, in their front offices. Um, it's like I don't want to be a martyr just because I found peace and like a night where I could rest. Like I don't want to be a martyr because I'd learned from my mistakes and found like my piece of paradise because I'm nesting. Like I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to be on nobody's shirt. I don't want to be on Time magazine. I don't want to be on Oprah, on old magazine. I don't want to be a meme just because I learned how to make better decisions. And I found a job that could sustain me, that I could save money, that I could buy a home eventually, that I could get a nice apartment. I don't want to be a martyr because I learned like how to navigate this system that was not set up for me. I don't want to be a martyr because I found something I'm passionate about and I work long hours and I'm sleeping through the night and I don't wake up because a system empowers people to be protectors of the status quo, to be protectors of their own biases, be protectors of their own prejudices, um, be protectors of convenience and comfort, and to instill fear. Like literally, it's just like terrorism. It's like we say all this bad stuff about things happening abroad and how people lose their lives, and it's like I just feel like it's real. I think it's real convenient for someone to have a problem with protesting enough to speak up about it, um, and not have a problem with like the girl who just saved your teenager's lives because he overdosed get murdered in her bed. It's like EMT save countless lives a week, dozens of lives a week. So maybe not countless, but when you take the industry, take the job title, and you look across the country and say how many people were saved by emergency responders, by EMTs, is a lot of people, especially in a pandemic where they're running around saving people who are short of breath, running around getting them as quick as possible, you know, putting themselves at risk. Like they show up to crazy scenes, and it's just like you really just got no feelings towards somebody being murdered in cold blood, and you like I don't know many Americans who are knuckleheads. I don't know many people on the planet who aren't knuckleheads. Especially as a teenager, even if it's, there's a spectrum of knuckleheadedness. And to get to a point where you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your choices, you learn from your past relationships, and you make judgments, and you become more discerning in how to navigate this world that the system doesn't even teach you how to navigate. Like it's no classes set up to teach you what money is, what it means after you're done with arithmetic, after you're done with math, basic math. They won't tell you another thing about a dollar. Um, and when you find a job where you can make some money and support yourself, and you get out of I just think about the life she lived, not how she died or why she died. I just think it's so many people doing the same thing, trying to live, and I can't imagine knowing. Well, I know too many people. I have too many photos of people whose lives were taken. I have too many obituaries. Um, they sitting real close to me right now. I don't even want to pull them out. For those that are watching the video, I got a freezer bag um, full of obituaries, because I've been to a lot of funerals. Uh, I've just since Christmas lost 10 people that I know personally, um, and that's not counting the number of people that I know that have lost people as well, this year, not just to pandemia, but also not just to a pandemic, but just to the system, where there are food deserts, so it's not a lot of proper nutrition. There's there's lack of care. There's not enough nurses, or not enough time, doctors hours in the day to take care of people. It's not enough. Emergency rooms are not big enough. Uh, People get pushed to the back of the line or left waiting when they need care. Um, like in the pandemic right now, you got shelters that can only house 20% um, of their capacity. So it's like an extra 80% of people are outside right now, um, during the summer into this fall, and will be into the winter. Um, not just in San Francisco, um, but around the country and a lot of places around the world. And to have a home and then be killed, and then a justice system say it there was no wrong done. I can't vibe with that. I can't believe that. I can't accept that. And I'm just part of a a community of people who feel like wrong should wrong should be corrected. Um, Inequity should be corrected. Inequality should be corrected. Um, Underrepresentation should be corrected. And like, I don't want nothing from anybody. I don't want to take nothing from anybody. I don't want anybody's position. I just want my space, my personal space, my life, my spirit, my energy, my flux light for my people, um, to be of value. that like I'm not artificial intelligence. I'm just a person that was born here, and I have relationships, and those relationships are part of who I am and make me um, who I am, and part of how I hold on to identity, and my connection to people are also a part of other people's identities, and Breonna Taylor's relationship to people in her community and her family and some of the people that she saved and people that she was on the back of the ambulance with, and the people that she gave CPR to, or hooked the defibrillator up to, like those relationships like make up those people's lives. Those bonds that she had with those people make up those lives, and just to have them be taken, and you say it's not wrong, it's not punishable, it's not even worth looking into, it's not even worth a trial. Like it's it's just everything that's false about America coming to light. Um, it's like when you say things that are like, oh, this is unconstitutional, and then you see governors and attorney generals and legislation passed that undermines the Constitution. And if you don't have a trial, then there's no look into it. If you don't have a trial, then there's no opportunity for justice to show up. And that's not a new world for me. That's not a new America for me. That's the same America that brought my ancestors here. That's the same America that decided that free labor was better than paying people. Um, and it's the same thinking, it's the same dehumanization of people that says if a person with a family and relationships and bonds ends up in the front of a bullet by accident, as long as I'm wearing a badge, it's all right. Um, because my job is stressful, and because I caused harm, I fear for my life. Um, and I have friends and family who are in law enforcement around this country, and I feel for those people for them, because they have to figure out how to navigate this world. They have a more complex relationship with the law than I do. Um, and and it's dangerous for them to even speak up. Um, it's frowned upon for them to even come out and say anything that's not endorsed by their precinct or their attorney general or their deputy sheriff or their sheriff, um, or their captain or their colonel or their sergeant or their detective. It's like if it's not endorsed by the authority above you, by a supervisor, you can't have an opinion. And I think that's so wrong with America. That's literally what America was supposed to be running from. Um, is that you couldn't say nothing against the king. And now people is the same thing as was been there. That's the thing. Like it's not a new America. It's the same America, and that's the thing. Like America hasn't ever been great. It's like people call it the experiment of capitalism, and you got people it's like kids playing with toys, and whoever gets to the toys first gets to have fun for playtime. And playtime has been going on, and folks need their toys taken away, um, because you ain't letting everybody else play, and to the point where like people are disappearing on the playground. and it's not a game. And that dehumanization of people who are non-white, who are non-cisgender, who are not straight, um, is disappearing children, is disappearing young people, is disappearing adults, is disappearing families, on a genocidal level, on a generational level, and we can't just not talk about it. It's like there's nothing else to talk about. It's like nothing else to talk about, and we should be excited to talk about it. We should be hopeful to talk about it. As sad and as sombering as it is, um, as demonstrative as it is, as disgusting as it is, we should take full advantage of being in this country where supposedly you can't get shot, supposedly you can't get arrested, supposedly you can't get killed for, oh, I gotta lean this way. Supposedly you can't get killed for speaking your mind. Like, cancel me. It's not the end of my life. It's not the end of my job. Like I live in San Francisco, and it is a flex, but there's a reality of hypocrisy, um, here in San Francisco. Like, tolerance is not acceptance. So to call any place tolerant is not enough. Um, that's dehumanizing a word in the first place. And um, like, we shouldn't tolerate murder. Uh, we shouldn't tolerate, home invasion. Um, and I think everybody had a little taste of that, with this pandemic, with their, some of their rights being taken away, and folks freaked out. And the folks who wasn't freaking out was the folks who deal with it all the time, who've been dealing with it for generations, and we just had to like sit at home, work from home, and wait for the news that somebody else was murdered who looked like us. And for the first time, people didn't have jobs to go to distract themselves and not talk about it. They didn't have sports to go to not talk about it. There was no nothing. There was no cooler for them to stand around and talk about something else. And we just have to get to a place of where like it's okay. Like they got the phrase in the fitness industry, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And really, we had to be like that with our spirits, with our emotions. That, like, we got to be okay with being uncomfortable about like the only thing that matters right now. Like, that's how revolution started in the first place. Is like there was nothing else to talk about, but the king was doing wrong. There's nothing else to talk about except slavery was wrong. There's nothing else to talk about except that the redcoats was coming. There's nothing else to talk about except that people is not eating the way they need to survive. People is not getting the education they need to survive and thrive. People are not getting the protection under these rights that they need to thrive and survive. And there's nothing else to talk about. And if you're not talking about it in your music, in your arts, in your conversations, in your water coolers, in your Zoom, in your classes, you're not even a part of the community. You're not even part of society. Like, you're not just turning a blind eye or a blind ear. Like, you're literally in denial of what's happening to the people next to you. And if you calling yourself a Christian and you're not worried about the person next to you, then you're not listening to the guy you think you claiming is the person at the head of your life. And you got to come to terms with that, not me, not us. Because we over here trying to love each other We over here trying to love the person next to us. Like when I see Breonna Taylor, I see her, not another sister. I see her as family because that bullet could come through that window right now or through this door right now. Like this door could be kicked in right now. And it wouldn't make a difference to y'all if it was recording or not. Y'all would be like, Thursday night football is on. Y'all would be like, it's the basketball playoffs. It's the US Open. And I never done anything wrong with the law. Whoops. I never was affiliated with anybody. If I told you who I was cool with in law enforcement, you'd be like, how could this happen to him? And like the captains of of police departments around the country that I've met and talked to, there'd be no reason except that I was recording and telling the truth. There would be no other reason for me to not be here on this planet. And so when you say, like, you talk about Breonna Taylor, who's an EMT, somebody who's like job, I get paid to save lives, like to preserve life. Like, would it hit home for you if she saved your life? Would it hit home for you if she lived next door to you, if you grew up with her? Would it hit home for you if she was dating your brother? Would it hit home for you if you got your hair done at the same place? Would it hit home for you if your elementary school was right next door? Would it hit home for you if she was walking in front of your kid's elementary school? Would it hit home for you? You got to like figure out for yourself, like when you go care about people who are innocent and not perfect, just innocent under the law. And when you go care about a law that protects people, you know, it's Lyrical Ones.
It's Lyrical Ones, episode 17, verse 2, bar 1, however you want to paint the picture. But, you know, just to kind of really think about it, just to give people the idea, kind of think about these
Go,
things,
go,
right?
go! Do your thing. Do your thing, bro.
When you look at the American flag and you see that red, white, and blue, and you think about what's it stand for, right? Like you think about the themes and the idea of a revolution, an American revolution. You think about the themes of getting away from, us being a part of, the UK, Britain, right? The other motherland, right? And the colors are the same, right? It's the same colors. It's just it's a different flag, right? But some of those principles remain. Some of those same structures, right? We went from getting away from the king to now we trying to get away from the state, right? We went from
Yep.
getting away from a person to now getting away from these words we've put on documents to say this is how we're going to maintain order. It's not the king's rule. It's the things that we passed, right? It's the things that we passed that you might not be privy to, you might not be aware of, or that you didn't even have a hand in writing or making. We're literally talking about the law. We're talking about how we decide this world is going to be. That's all this is. All we doing is following rules in some book. I mean, I wasn't raised with that book. I'm not familiar with that book, but that book literally runs my life. It is the difference between my freedom and me being trapped. People talk about having bootstraps. We all live by the same rule book, but we're treated differently when that rule book is thrown in our face. We all think about how, oh, you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps. If you ain't got feet, then you ain't got no bootstraps to pull yourself up by. Breonna Taylor was living her life She was a part of her community in a positive way, trying to be helpful and healing, and yet still was met with an outcome of there's no fault on our behalf for her death. Let that be someone else who doesn't look like Brianna, who doesn't look like her family member, right? We're talking about we're in this collaborative experiment, the United States, where just as Affluent has said, this is the same country that brought the slaves. It's also the same country that set them free. It's the same country that, as much as they were trying to get away from the king's rule, every step of the way was fighting for change, right? What is the Tea Party other than a protest? Yet the Americans who were here are protesting themselves, right? They talk about the destruction of property. Where do you think we got it from? You literally destroyed our culture. You destroyed our language. You destroyed our heritage, our connection to our roots. You destroyed it. And then you want to get upset that we want to break some windows, right? When you think about it, you think about this pandemic, Affluent said it, right? This is the first chance people have had the taste of what it means to not have those liberties that you enjoyed before the pandemic. Yet, black and brown people, we've been dealing with it our whole lives. We've been dealing with it for generations. We're talking about reading articles on articles upon articles of, well, they live in the projects. It looks like military barracks. I don't know how many times I've seen that in newspaper articles as I've grown. They live in the projects. They look like military barracks. This is a common theme, a common thread. And it's like we went from living on the plantation to them designating whole areas for us to live in, not thrive, just survive, get by, right? You got people like our CEO Wells Fargo, the same company that was opening up accounts illegally, that was unethically, right? They had people, a bunch of people doing these fake accounts. It was like last year, the year before. Yet they go and say, the CEO has the nerve to say, as unfortunate it is for me to say, there's just not a lot of black talent out there. Boy, oh boy, what do you mean? I know people who didn't even graduate high school and were working at the bank. What do you mean? You have people who obviously in your own company were doing unethical actions, trying to inflate numbers for the justification of growth when there was none. And you have the nerve to say that there's not enough black talent. But if we talk about the black unemployment rates, it's always going to be higher than the rest of the country, right? When we talk about the deindustrialization of the United States and how black men had jobs that provided for families, right? Where does that fall into the equation of black talent? When every interval we get a chance, you all conveniently, when I say you all, I mean you people in power, you people in positions that hold authority, you people that get to enforce those papers and those books and those laws, how convenient it is for you to say, oh, well, now it's about talent. There's not enough black people to find talent. Or is it that you don't know how to get talent? Because the talent is out there. You can't tell me you've went after everyone. You can't tell me you've played your role in developing and fostering that talent, because it's not like I haven't seen black people work at a bank before. Have I ever seen them in a managerial position? Have you made the investment to see them grow? We sat on here in many episodes, professionals in the tech field saying there was no one taking an interest in my professional development and growth, so I had to fight for it. But there's a common theme, right? We don't get to talk to everybody, and those are individuals that we had to seek out to be a part of this podcast because they're active in the work and they're leading those conversations. But not everyone is conditioned. Not everyone has those experiences to be able to lead those conversations. So what that really says is you have people who come into your company to make you look good, and instead of holding on to them and harnessing them and building them up, you rather just let them go because they don't fit the bill of having talent. To have talent means you've had a coach, you had some direction, someone taught you. I speak a language not because I learned it on my own. I speak a language because my mother and my father were constantly trying to talk to me to get me to communicate with them. They trained me. Everything that's happened so far has come from the teachers that have lied before me and giving me access and opportunity, either through the knowledge or in my ability to use that knowledge to, well, be talented. And so here we are at this time period where Breonna Taylor, she's lost her life. We're in a state where, this country more than ever is comfortable with communicating and showing how much they don't value black lives, right? I'm
So
not trying
comfortable.
to take away from all the injustices, but right now that's what's being discussed. We're talking about black lives. We're talking about Americans who are the descendants of American slavery who have been impacted multi-generationally through redlining, right? These are laws that y'all made, right? Through, you know, segregation, right? We're talking about the deindustrialization. We're talking about the war on drugs. I mean, come on. The drugs are coming from a plane, and at that time period, I can't really say how many of those planes were flown by black pilots, let alone how many of those black pilots spoke Spanish or any other language to be able to traffic the drugs into the communities that it caused harm. Oh, wait, that's right. Y'all had a whole section of the FBI designated just to the Black Panthers who were responsible for the free lunch programs. Oh, that's right. Y'all bombed the house that Fred Hampton was in, and y'all literally shot everyone up in it. And here we are, all these years later, from a black leader to a black woman who was a leader in her community, right? It's whether she chose to be a leader or not. Her being an EMT, her being out there, she gets to represent something for the next child who sees her in uniform in that ambulance. She is a representative of change, of something different. If it is the norm out there, guess what? For me to know that there's people out there who are taking ownership in these roles and showing up in their communities, it means something to me. She's a leader in my eyes. Every time I see a person, every time I give that subtle head nod of respect, you're doing your thing. I love you. I respect you. I see you. I know what it took for you to get here, even if it ain't the same. I know what it means for you to stay here. But now, right, we talk about the loss of life. We talk about the disruption of life. And we talk about how what it means to be American is to fight for change, to fight for our freedoms. And yet we're not given a fair shake, right? We're not given the same amount. Like people often wonder why things are the way they are. Because there's people in power, people in positions that hold themselves to these paper documents as to this is the way it should be. But I'm gonna keep it 100. The time they wrote the Constitution, they didn't have no cell phones. They didn't have the ability to generate and create a whole movie. They didn't have deep fakes. They didn't have people being able to show themselves in ways that we have no stretch of the imagination to really comprehend. To me, I'm at a point where we need wide sweeping changes. We need to really revise and restructure what it is that we're holding on to because it's obvious it's not working. It's working for some, it's not working for the whole. It's not working for even the majority because in these minorities that are struggling, right? Whether they be black, brown, yellow, red, whatever you call it, they're not being treated fairly. They're not being given a fair opportunity to exist. And you got a lot of white allies out here who are trying to be a part of the struggle too, who are trying to fight for those changes. And yet they're being labeled as a terrorist organization. Now, it isn't to say there ain't people out there who are disruptive, but again, we also have agents of the state, right? We also have people, and I know because I've had conversations with the leaders that have come before me, I know the stories. Someone trying to fight for liberation and freedom of people who are oppressed, who've been subjugated against the system, right? What happens? Someone infiltrates, someone goes undercover, someone creeps in to the fold. They earn the trust, they gain your love, they gain your, the ability to have a bond. And what do? You think that they're fighting for you when they fighting against you the whole time. And then what happens? People go to jail. Now we sitting here at a time when just recently one of the Black Panthers were released from jail. Now they've been up for parole for what, since 1994, 1995, and the only reason why I'm of the belief they got released is because they had to recover from COVID. I'm blessed that they're free, but they've been in jail for 49 years. Time has been taken away. They ain't gonna get that time back. Lives have been taken away. We can't get that life back. So we're not sitting here as people who are trying to cause harm. We're not here to cause destruction. But things have to change. That is a demand. It has to change. That is the truth. That's the absolute truth that we live in. Whatever you believe, whatever you know, if you have compassion to understand pain, that's what's going on. We're in pain. And in order to stop this pain, to stop this hurt, we need changes so that way the next generation understands how not to create harm, how not to create pain, because that is what we're living in. We are living in pain. We don't want to be in pain. We don't want the harm to happen. For anybody who says, oh, yeah, well, if you just look at it differently, if you just stop complaining, if you just do something about it, we've been trying to do something about it this whole time. And every time we try to do something about it, you take us out, you take us down, you destroy us, you take away our credibility.
65 years ago today, 65 years ago today, the murderers who killed Emmett Till, disfigured and killed Emmett Till, got off scot free. Were also not charged, not convicted of anything, and also the same system, right? No corrections made. They wasn't even law enforcement. They even admitted that they did it and that they were mistaken for their reasons, even though their reasons wasn't justified in the first place. The people involved, like, even admitted, the woman involved even admitted that she lied, and they all got off free except the young boy. Like, we know that these officers, that these murderers, they knew that Breonna, the guy they were looking for, was already in custody. They had the wrong house because the guy wasn't there, and there was no reason for them to come in shooting, and then and no reason for them to not knock on the door. And today they got off scot free, and that's how we know that's how we know we're still living in America. That's how we know it's the same country with with the same rules for the same people and different rules for different people. Um,
Hey, money keeps you free. And if you ain't got money, how free can you be?
I'm free without it.
I mean, hey, but that one wrong move, right? Think about it like this. You a
How about no
judge.
wrong moves? No
I
wrong
mean, you're
moves.
right. You're right. No wrong moves. It could just be you just there, right? But, if I'm rolling through in a bulletproof tank, what you gonna do to me? If I'm removed from all signs of any chance I can have you cause me harm, what you gonna do to me? There's levels to it, there's degrees to it. But at the end of the day, how free are you? And in this context of the situation, as they continue to define our limits, as they get to define, like, as deep as it can be, you said it. It was like you can't have no conversation. It wasn't no water coolers back then. When the revolution was happening, We all on a revolution. But now they got us distracted. They use our people to keep us inoculated, to keep us
Mentally
under,
inoculated. You right.
yeah, to keep us in wraps within ourselves of, oh, well, I don't have to see what's happening to my other people because I'm looking at my people right now. They on the screen. They're keeping me glued because they give me that sense of validation of being seen. Whereas the baby's dying in the street, right? Well, it's easy to turn a blind eye, but it's hard to do that now because we've had a moment in time where fates would have it. You're gonna have to sit down with yourself, and every time you try to distract yourself, we're gonna remind you because you're gonna see it on your little screen. The
And
game has changed.
every time some athlete, some criticizer says, somebody with a platform says that a protest, that one basketball game or one football game or one practice or one shirt won't do any good, there's some group of people that believe that, and it becomes true. And the same thing with votes. If you spread the news that your vote don't count, then it won't. And but if you spread the news that people need to be educated, you spread the news that folks need to take a break from sports and escapism. You spread the news that if we do this together, in this together, so many slogans of being in this together over this summer, over this spring, from these corporations saying that they was in this together, in this with us. Really, they just hoping that we spend when the time comes, and they want your ratings. They just want you. They want your spins. They want your sound bites. They want your words so they can recreate them and reframe them for their context, for their platform. And so remember to do it with the people next to you, to form community with the people next to you, to fight and struggle with the people next to you, so that the people who are not around don't dilute your message. The people who are not in the struggle with you don't take your words, reframe them, and misuse them and misconstrue them against you. Um, like, if the reason why the revolution won't be televised is because we're not giving the time and place away to the people who are not a part of it. And we got to realize that if you keep sharing the good news, just like they did when they murdered a black Palestinian, the state murdered a black Palestinian for doing no wrong, for being innocent, by the mob, convicted by the mob. If you keep telling the good news, they go say it's not the truth. They go say it's a lie, and that love don't work, and that the only way to beat violence is with violence, and not with education. And really, love is just that: knowing somebody, acknowledging them, and making sure they are seen and not looked over or left out. And if we can educate ourselves about each other, then we're on a step to loving each other. And the more we cover our ears and cover our eyes to what each other has to say, the further we are from improving this country, improving this planet. And we can't just chastise people and vilify people for having a different opinion. We have to do more, and we have to do more together. And it's not just the people that look like you, it's the people that disagree with you. Um, and the people that don't see the world the way that you see the world, because you have to hear them as much as you have to speak up and be heard. And if you're only doing one side of that communication, you still not part of the solution. And folks got to know that. If you just go in with the mega horn and not giving someone else the chance to speak and let people have time to dialogue and process what y'all saying, it's like, is this person really talking about love, or is this person talking about something else? Is this person really talking about community, or is this person talking about something else? Is this person talking about healing and making adjustments and fixing the problems and making corrections, or are they talking about something else? Are they talking about change, or are they talking about what's already been there? And and regardless of who you say is responsible for what's already here, measure how much work you've done. And if you ain't done too much work, if you ain't voted too much in your lifetime, if you are not sure which legislation put this person in power to make these decisions, these policies that keep you pressed down and uh, marginalized, then you ain't done much. They ain't done enough either. And it's okay to say I haven't done enough. It's okay to be there and be in that space. It's okay to admit that you have misstepped and made mistakes. And it's okay to break up with your current way of making choices. It's okay to do that and learn a new way to save lives. It's all right to do that and say, like, man, I haven't done enough. But also acknowledge your bandwidth, right? When somebody asks for help, they're not saying go do more than you can. When somebody says, is there a doctor in the house? If you're not a doctor, you don't need to raise your hand. They're not asking for that. Say, well, I can do this. Well, if we need more than CPR, or if we need a doctor's help, well, you can go find a doctor. But if somebody say need help pushing a car, well, we'll say I'm not really good at pushing the car, but I'm light enough to steer it while somebody else push. Or I can hold traffic while y'all push the car. I can flag down somebody else while y'all push the car. Right? We in the space right now where the country is broken, is a broken down car. And everybody's got to get out and push. It's cold. Winter's coming, and nobody wants to be pushing. But you can't, if you stay in the car, it's too heavy for us to push. So everybody's got to get out and do their part. Flag down some more help, block traffic, whatever you got to do to be a part of the solution, be a part of the solution.
No, I mean, in that, I just want to say to people who decide to protest, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the people who are around you, be mindful that there will be undercovers, there will be agents of the state that wish to take away from what it is we're fighting for, who will try to discredit and minimize the scope of the work that you're putting in. So please be mindful to call them out, to separate yourself from them, and to take pictures and identify them.
Folks who
Don't like
incite violence, be mindful of them. Those who incite violence, who pay attention to their body language. They generic paraphernalia and their apparel. Be mindful of what they look like, and if they give you
uniformity.
if if the way they move and the way they interact with everyone else, be mindful of all of that, because they are out there. That's the reality of it, and you need to identify them. Um, what the chat say?
It's about to go down. So, with all that, just to be clear, right? If they're afraid to show their face, they shouldn't be in your space. And that's coming from a person with a mask on. But my mask is easily identifiable, and this mask don't change. It don't hide. So if they are afraid to show their face, they shouldn't be in your space. So with that, we just want to give our love, to give our peace and our support to everyone in the struggle. Oppression against one is oppression against all. And this has been Lyrical Ones. Thank you. And keep the fight on.